Hi guys, my name is Mark Dandan, and I would like to give you an intro. And we're going to talk about the Iroquois terror fire that killed 602 people. An incident that killed 602 people in 15 minutes in a brand new, absolutely fireproof Chicago theater. The day was December 30th of 1903, when over 2,000 people came to see the theater's hit musical, Mr. Bluebird. Women and children heavily outweighed the amount of men in the audience, reports claiming as much as 10 to 1. This tragedy was something that will forever shape the fire service and will go down as one of the most horrific fires in history.
The Iroquois Theater was known by its magnificent use of marble and mahogany throughout the theater. The theater was advertised as absolutely fireproof, not only from the building owner and its pay bills, but from city officials and building inspectors. The theater used an asbestos curtain to separate the audience in case of a stage fire.
The fire originally started backstage and was spotted by a spotlight operator who was up on the rafters working the light, and he tried to alert the stagehands, tried to alert stage manager, and he couldn't get a hold of any of them. He couldn't find any of them. And later reports came out stating that the stage members and stagehands had left the theater to go next door to a pub to get a drink. And with nobody backstage, the fire quickly took off into the wooden props, oily rags. It really fueled. It was a very well fueled fire. The remaining crew that were at the theater, they tried to lower their asbestos curtain, which was really made out of paper, which doesn't go well with fire. And it didn't actually come down all the way. It malfunctioned in the lowering, and the fire quickly heated up from all the props, all the wooden trim in the theater that Jennifer had stated, and it took off. It hit that asbestos curtain, and it was a fireball. The audience, after seeing that were told to remain in their seats, panicked. They were rushing to the 27 exits that the building had, and they only found that 3 were open on that night. And with 3 open and 2,000 people in a building, you're not getting out too quick. So the locked doors were all double doors. All the exits were double doors. They were rushing and panicking, and people on the balconies, in fact, were the majority of the people that died in that fire. There were no fire escapes. There were no anything that could help them get out quicker. And there was one way up, one way down, and people on the balconies even began to jump off, trying to escape. They jumped off into the sea of people below them, panicking, and died on impact, and some were even able to survive some of the impacts and came down and were buried. They were buried in bodies. Reports saying here that there were up to 6 deep in bodies in front of the doors trying to get out, and some of the exits, and one of them in fact was 4 feet above the ground on the outside, and people was really getting slow trying to get out of that door. And at one point there was nobody coming out of that door. They were stuck in there. The fire quickly took off through all the wooden trims, the big white curtains, and they had a lot of stuff in there that was not very fire retardant. And there was a huge fireball that took place in the fire that killed a lot of people just based off the heat, and that was because of a back theater escape door had been found and was opened, and with the shift of air, all the oxygen rushing in and the fire looking for that quick escape, a fireball took place, a flashover occurred, and killed many people. And at the end, when the theater burned out, 602 people were dead. That's a big number. That's not a small fire. That's tragic. That's crazy to have 602 people die in a theater. They were going out to enjoy their night. They were going out to have fun. They wanted to see a good show. They wanted to come home with their families and spend the rest of the night together, but a tragedy occurred, and that's something that needs to never happen again. So in the aftermath of that fire, there were a lot of prosecutions, but none of them really stood. The inspector was trying to be charged with misfeasance, and he was, but he didn't remain in jail for too long, and as well as the building owner says here that he was charged and convicted of manslaughter and poor safety provisions. The conviction was later appealed, so he was out. It was reversed. In fact, the only real person to serve any real jail time was the neighboring saloon owner, who had robbed the dead bodies at the scene. Right after the fire, the first responders, the firefighters, and police officers took over his saloon and made it a morgue, a part-time morgue. And they were bringing all the bodies in, and the owner was actually robbing them and taking the money that they had or jewelry. And he was the only real person to serve any real jail time after that fire. And in terms of codes, well, codes, they changed. The Illinois state and federal codes came about requiring for maximum seating capacities and exit signage and exit doors to be unlocked. So that became a law then that when they had an overage amount of people in their building, that those doors had to be unlocked, and they could be charged if they were found locked. And also another thing was the inclusion of sprinklers. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but there were no fire sprinklers above the stage. There were in the audience in the seating sections, but there was none above the stage, and that, if there were, that could have saved a lot of people that night. That fire sprinklers going off on that fire quick and early probably would have got it out real quick. This is just another thing to pay attention to, that this is a very historic fire. It killed a lot of people, and it should never have happened. It's sad to see the tragedy of it, and learning about the fire service as a student, it's heartbreaking. 602 people is crazy to me, and that's something that can never be forgotten.